How many times have you promised yourself that you would start living healthier? How often have you made a commitment only to see it fade away after a few weeks? For years, I was more of a spectator in my own life, watching from the sidelines instead of fully participating. If you've ever felt this way, then this episode is for you. In today's episode, we dive deep into the powerful journey of Allan Misner, who, at the age of 39, had something profound happen to him that prompted him to realize something needs to change. Today is a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer, Precision Nutrition Level 2 Master Health Coach, and a Functional Aging Institute certified functional aging specialist. Together, we explore what it really takes to break through mental and emotional barriers and the role of motivation, both intrinsic and extrinsic, and how small shifts in habit can lead to profound results. So, if you're ready to stop watching and start participating in your own life, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Hi, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you today?
Fantastic. I have been looking forward to talking to you because your story is incredible and inspiring. Let's get started. It is your right before your 39th birthday. You are at a tropical resort. You're supposed to be having an amazing time. I think you were playing beach volleyball at the time, but you went through a life-changing moment. What happened?
As a kid, I was an athlete. And so I forced myself to take a vacation and literally went down to a timeshare location for a vacation on the beach and just walked in the office and said, sell me one. I hadn't even been there. And I bought one. I'm like, because I knew if I invested in the weeks that I would go because I'd gone 3 years without taking a vacation. Okay.
Wow.
So I'm excited because I look at the itinerary of what they're doing, all the activities, and beach volleyball's on there. I'm like, this is great. This is great. So the next morning, I'm all excited. First guy out on the sand, ready to go, get into the first game. And I almost didn't make it through the game. As soon as the game was over, I subbed out and sat there. I was breathing heavy, sweating. I almost really close to having them call an ambulance is at that point. Now I sat there, I cooled down and calmed down and like, okay, I'm going to live. But that was a kick, man. I was like, it was not 2-on-2. This was 6-on-6. So this was just take a couple steps here, bump, take a couple steps there, bump. It was nothing extraordinary, but it was for my body apparently very extraordinary. So I made the decision that day that I was going to change. I bought the drink package, so of course I wasn't going to change this week. And it turned out that I wasn't going to change for 8 years. I would try and fail and try. And a lot of people that have gone through the yo dieting, I might lose 20, 30 pounds, but I'd pack it on and more right after. And so I was just struggling with it. I didn't have answers. Everything I tried didn't work. It either broke me or just didn't get me there. And then I'd fall back on bad habits. And I was right back where I started until about 8 years later. So now I'm basically 47, almost 46, 47. And I was on the phone with my daughter, and my daughter had gotten into CrossFit and she was now a level 1 instructor. So she was loving these things. And she calls me, she says, hey, would you come watch me do this CrossFit competition? And it was like a kick in the gut. And this kick in the gut was not me giving the kick in the gut. This was like life giving me a real kick in the gut. I was like, wait, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not supposed to be the spectator. I'm supposed to be the participant. I didn't sign on to be a spectator. I'm not a rocking chair father, grandfather guy. That's just not how I define myself. So I knew I had to do something at that moment, like right then. And so I was thinking, why is this so much harder? I passed the CPA exam the first time I took it. Hard. I did that. I was in the U.S. military infantry. Hard. I did that. They transferred me to a ranger unit. Hard. I did that. I wasn't a ranger, but I was in a ranger unit. And so I'd done all these hard things. I'd made it to the C-suite by the age of 39 in a Fortune 500 company. Hard. What made this harder than those things? And then it occurred to me that it wasn't. What was different was I had never really committed to change. All those other things, I had made the commitment and I was fanatical. I was obsessive. And everybody around me knew that. This is his single focus, the single thing he's going to do now, next. And so I said, I've never done that. I said, that's my answer. I have to get fanatical. I have to commit to this and then I have to do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it because I'd tried, but I just knew that that was the missing element. So I went out and said, I'd love to hire a coach But unfortunately, I travel 90% of the time. So I'm only home one weekend a month. Personal trainer is not going to get me there one weekend out of the month. So I said, okay, I got to solve that problem. How do I solve that problem? Maybe I'll go online. Nobody was online doing this. There were a few coaches online I knew about, like they were doing bodybuilding prep and powerlifting prep and things like that. So if you wanted to prep for a bodybuilding competition, they could help you cut, they could work on your posing. But I couldn't find a coach that would coach general pop people, particularly those over the age of 40, to do this. So there's only one other answer: find a book. So I started looking for books. The only books I could find was chair yoga and stretching. Now, that wasn't going to get me in that kind of shape. So I was like, okay, I'll look for podcasts. There were no podcasts. So I'm like, there's absolutely nobody doing this. And so many people need it. What I said was, I guess I got no other option. I have to become my own personal trainer. I went and got certified as a personal trainer. I got corrective exercise, fitness, nutrition, functional aging institute. I went through all of it. And as I went through that, I was learning why things had broken me, why things weren't working, what would work. I did have one meeting with a nutritionist, and she asked me if I knew what paleo was. I said, I have no idea. She handed me a book that she had with it. It was a notebook that all these articles and stuff in it, scientific articles, different things. I said, here, go do this. Okay. And that was it. So I managed to start losing weight, but I wasn't moving as fast as I wanted to move. So I got this idea that I would put a big, scary challenge in for myself. Like the CPA exam is given it was 2 dates during the year, and you had to take all the parts at the same time, no calculator, just pencil and paper. And you have to pass, at least if you pass 2 and get a minimum score on the other 2, you get to keep it. But otherwise, you got to come take the whole thing again. And I was committed. I'm like, I am not taking this twice. Okay. So this time I was like, okay, I have to have a date certain. Okay. And so I said, okay, it's November. And I said, there's a Tough Mudder I want to do with my daughter. It's 8 months away. So I call her up. I say, do you want to do this? And she's sure. And I don't think she thought about me doing it. I think she thought she wanted to do it because it was exciting. I said, okay, I'll get her airline tickets. I'll get us booked in and lodging and all of it. Booked all of it. Solid. I'm in. And I just told my daughter that I was going to be ready to do a Tough Mudder. And I did. I completely crushed it. I got in there and said, okay, I've got to train. I've got to train like this. I've got to be like this. I've got to solve every problem that gets in my way. There's 0 between me and that Tough Mudder. And I didn't want to just do the Tough Mudder. I wanted to do it with her. Meaning I didn't want her to feel like I got to stay back with my old man and be slow, or for me to sit there and say, no, go honey, please go ahead. I'll finish on my own. I didn't want either of those 2 things to happen. So I had to be in her shape. So she was 20, can be 21 a month after that. And I wanted to be in the shape to keep up with her. Now, so here we are at the end of this race. And so basically, if you don't know what a Tough Mudder is, it's 12 to 13 mile run, but it's in terrain that's very difficult. It's where they go to get trucks and ATVs stuck. It's soupy, it's hilly, it's everything you wouldn't want to do 12 to 13 miles through. And they throw in 25 obstacles to mess with you and make it more fun. So it's grueling, it's hard. And at the time, it was the only civilian obstacle course that had killed somebody. Somebody died doing it. Okay. And so there was some danger to it. And there was a lot of fear factor stuff: electricity, heights, darkness, closeness, tightness, water, all of it. And so we're coming up and we're finishing the race. I'm keeping up with it. Everything's going great. And we're coming up to the last obstacle, and it's electrodes. So there's a puddle of water and it's not flat. So there's rows that people have to be careful about not turning an ankle or tripping. And then there's these electric wires hanging down. And so as we're coming around the corner, I see this guy run in and he gets hit and he goes face down in the water. And he tries to, I think it was just instinctual, he tried to pop back up and he hit another one and went down again. So he just belly crawled out of that mud. Now there's 20 or 30 guys just standing there looking at this obstacle like, how are we going to do this? Just their faces. And so we're coming up on them. And my daughter's like, what do you want to do? And I said, just going to go around them. And she said, what? I said, just go around. She said, we're not going to wait. I said, no, we're not going to wait. So I sent her to the left. I went to the right. And when we came back around, we met up. I grabbed her hand and we went through those electrodes. Now you could feel it hit you, but it wasn't enough to knock us down. We got all the way through it. And then the last obstacle was to jump over the fire. It's not dangerous, just it's a good photo op at the end. You're jumping over fire, but it's not that scary. And then we finished together holding hands. But here's a little tip, kids. By holding my daughter's hand, I put more body mass for that each of those strikes to displace across. So that's what made it easier for us to go through and not face plant, whereas the single guy going through there face plants because he doesn't have the body mass we have. Now, I don't know if the guys behind me figured out that's how we did it, But yeah, that's how we did it.
Hey, the beauty and brain and strength all together.
I did major in physics for a while, so I know a couple things.
What a story. What a story. You were talking about taking the CPA exam and you were saying, I want to take it twice. I always say this thing. I say, I'm way too lazy to do something twice. If I'm going to do it one time, I'm going to do it all in because I don't want to do it again.
Exactly. So you commit to the task and you go get it done. And that's what I needed. And I needed to understand some personality things about myself. Like I knew if I had something big and scary, and a hard stop, I had to get it done. There was no, there was just yes, how. And so that's part of what drives me as a person. And just understanding that was a key component to put this all together. Whereas normally I would have driven myself to breaking. I couldn't afford to do that either. So I had to find that ground of what can I do and then do it as hard as I can do it and then wake up tomorrow and do it again.
So let's dig deep into this because you're talking about motivation. You're talking about finding the why. You're talking about commitment and going in, all in. 39 years old, when you're having this realization at the resort, that's also the time when you have just become a C-level executive in a Fortune 500 company. The next 8 years from that moment, you said you tried many things and you weren't successful. What was happening then in terms of your commitment and your motivation? Now you looking back at it, that was different than the moment when you realized I'm going all in. What was the difference?
Yeah. There's these mindsets. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was going through then during that period of time, but I was learning these, what I call the 5 mindsets. And now that I've worked with tons and tons of clients, I see it. As soon as I start a conversation with someone, I'm like, oh, that's how this person's wired. And by knowing how they're wired, you can then give them the path because those things are going to block us. So my first block was that I was always taking and looking at what else someone else needed to be done, someone else's obligations, someone else's needs. And when I got done taking care of that, which was at the time work. So if work was 20 hours and I got to sleep 4, that's okay. That's what I got to do, right? So 20-hour days they were normal. But you can't eat, right, move, sleep if you don't have some space to get those things done. So that was one of the things that I had never done. And so that was kind of what I was getting. Once I made the commitment, I recognized, okay, I have to make space for this. I have to make time for this. So I got a little bit more purposeful. And at work, I said, okay, look, here's what I'm going to do. From 2 to 3, I'm going to the gym. I'm blocking it out on my calendar. It's an appointment. And it's in my opinion, the most important appointment I have that day. And so nobody else could schedule meetings for that hour. I was in the gym. I got up a half hour early and went for walks as I opened space to do that. So that's the first thing. I was what I call a co-pilot, meaning I was taking care of everybody else, but not taking care of myself. And then as a co-pilot, you just have to ask for help. So you got to open that up and you got to ask. So I told my boss, this is what I'm going to do. He's okay, cool. Gotcha. Now you'd forget sometimes, but it's fine. Do you need this before 4? No. Okay, I'll have it to you by 4. So instead of just dropping everything, I'm headed to the gym, just dropping everything and doing what he needed, I would just ask, do you need this before 4? It was a simple thing, but it was hard. Asking for help is hard. Okay, so the second thing I found was that I was what I call a rear view mirror, what I call a Windows person, but I was looking in the rear view mirror and I was like, I used to be so fit. I used to be so capable. And I would try to do those things. Like I did the insanity workout from Beachbody. I didn't even do the workout. I did the benchmark test and I couldn't get out of bed the next morning. I had to call off of work because I had done the benchmark test. So I never did a single one of those workouts. I burned every one of those off a DVD onto my iPad, ready to go, did the benchmark and never did another one. So I was looking in the rear view mirror when I wasn't recognizing where I was sitting and what I was capable of doing today, and then looking out the windshield at where I wanted to go. So that's why if you find yourself looking back, and it can go both ways. If you're a little overweight, if you're overweight as a kid and you keep looking back and thinking you're that fat kid, that's where you're going to stay. If you think you're that fit person, you're not going to be that until you turn around and look out the windshield and drive in where the direction you got to go. So it's about getting yourself, knowing where you are and being focused. So that's what a windshield person needs to do. Then it was traction. Okay. So if you've ever driven up an icy hill and you've got good traction on your tires, they'll tell you, don't slow down, don't speed up. Just keep going. So a tires person needs traction and they need to visually see it. So this is someone who does well with gamification, filling the circles on their watch, seeing a streak. I did this 29 months in a row or whatever a streak is going. They're going to respond very well to streak. So I had to get some consistency built in and I had to be able to see it. So marking down my workouts in a notebook and marking on a calendar and things like that, all the things I did that day, those were giving me what I needed. But I didn't know that at the time. That's why I would fail, is I'd start doing something, Friday would roll around and I'd stop doing it. And then I didn't start back on Monday. So I felt good for 4 days, but then I'd be off for 2 weeks or 3 months or whatever. So I needed to have that consistency. I need to be able to see it, physically see it in some way or another. So that's a tires person. I was not really a pedals person, but that's another person I've identified. And that's the person who's tried everything. So they'll try a diet for 2 or 3 weeks and they're like, I'm not seeing results. So they quit. And then they're looking for something. So it's gas break. And they don't go anywhere and they don't understand. It's like nothing works for me. And it's like they just haven't given it time. So if you decide you're going to try a certain way of eating or you're going to implement a new lifting routine, set yourself some goals to do it for a number of weeks, like 6 or 8 or something, so that you have enough time to see whether it works or not. 2 or 3 weeks is not enough time for the human body to change enough for you to see it. So give yourself some time. So as a pedals person, get started, set that guideline, that threshold. I'm going for 8 weeks. I'm going to do this 5x5 program for 8 weeks. And I'm not going to do anything else but this program. And so the instant you feel that tendency to hit the brakes, stop yourself. Say, no, I said 8 weeks. And then you get to the 8 weeks and you realize, hey, I got honking strong. This was actually a really good program. I'm glad I didn't quit in week 2. So a pedals person just needs to pick something they know is reasonable and then do it long enough to get the results, and they'll do better. And then the final one is Atlas. And you're an Atlas. I'm an Atlas now. And Atlas it's not the Greek god carrying the planet. It's the paper atlases that we used to have when I was little. They still do sell them. It's really hard to find. Amazon probably, but it's a book of maps. And so when we were going to take a long trip, our parents would take a red felt marker and they would mark out the path that we were going to travel. Okay. Now I know why they did it. It was not because they wanted to know all the twists and turns they were going to make, which it helped, but so they could hand us that map and we would know, okay, we're not even halfway through this. So there's no sense asking when we're going to get there. We already know we're not going to get there anytime soon. Okay. So that's why my parents did it. But an Atlas person who needs to see a destination, they have to have the brass ring. They have to have the thing they're going for, whether it's the exam or the promotion or the Tough Mudder. You got to have that big, scary thing, that thing in front of you that you're charging and working toward. Okay. And so that's what drives Atlas, is to have those. And if we don't have something, we meander. We work at stuff. We don't really bear down and do what needs to get done. And so just almost by accident, getting to a point where the commitment hit and I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Why am I doing this? All the things that stopped me, I would sit back and I'd say, okay, I've got to analyze this problem. Why am I doing this? And what would be driving me to do it? So why did I stop on Friday and then not work out for the weekend? That was happening those first few months before I signed up for the Tough Mudder, because I've got to be consistent. I got to have this stuff. And then why am I doing stuff that hurts me? And there's got to be, and then I started learning. I was doing the certification. So I was starting to learn, okay, muscle recovery and nutrition. And okay, I can't go at this the way I don't recover the way I did. I need more warm up. Never had to warm up as a kid, just start lifting. But I needed to warm up and I needed to stretch and I needed to cool down. And things that I didn't think I needed when I was younger, I realized I absolutely need when I'm older. So I started putting those things in place without really knowing it was the mindsets that I was working through. And then finally, I recognized, like, I'm moving slow here. And I think if I put something scary in front of myself, I'm gonna move more. I'm gonna move faster. I'm gonna push harder. And I did. When I'm coaching and I'm talking to someone, it's one of the first things I've got to find is what's going to drive this or keep this person moving forward. And if I find those mindsets, I can help them avoid the things that are going to stop them. But then boom, when they get it going, it's okay. Now, I had one client, she was struggling with consistency walking. She wanted to walk. That was going to be one of her first primary exercise modalities. I said, fine, okay, what are you going to do? She said, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes each morning, every day. I'm like, okay, cool. She wasn't doing it. So I pulled her aside. I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I said, look, walking for you, because it's improving your health, improving your fitness, is an act of self-love. We had a lot of conversations about self-love and what this was. I said, you need to do this to show your self-love. And I said, so I want you to get a paper calendar. Now, I got this from Tony Horton from P90X. Get a paper calendar. And each day you do your walk, I want you to mark your calendar. I want you to be able to see it every day. How many days this month you did that 30-minute walk. She did me one better. She went out and bought heart-shaped stickers. And she started putting a heart-shaped sticker on her calendar every day she did her walk. And in that month, she did it every day. calendar full of hearts, self-love, getting it done. And so if you start understanding these things that are typically going to block us and keep us from getting there, you can turn them into superpower because you can look at that wiring and say, how does that wiring affect me? And boom, I can't look backwards. I'm sitting right here. This is the driver's seat, right where I am right now. I'm 58 years old. I'm not 29. So if I keep looking in the rearview mirror at Mr. 29-year-old, I'm not driving forward. I'm 58. Okay. So I'm 58. I sit here and I look out the windshield and make sure 59 is even better than 58.
No, what a great attitude to have and what a great way to go about doing things. I am so interested and mesmerized by your methodology because it makes really good sense. And you break it down when you talked about those 5 things, you break it down exactly through the stages that people go through without realizing it.
Yeah.
What I'm really curious to learn about from you is how you deal with the psychological aspect of things, right? We know that once we have gotten some results, once we have gotten some tractions, once there is some momentum built, it's so much easier to get through, right?
Yes.
And I was in that place myself, and I know millions of Americans who are listening to this are in this place with themselves. The beginning of the year, they want to lose weight. It's their birthday. They want to lose weight. It's their anniversary. The spouse, because of the spouse, baby, I'm going to lose weight this year. And there is some type of commitment, whether it be defined as the ultimate commitment or not, there is some type of commitment. But the cyclical process of trying and failing and trying and failing, it just beats people down. And at some point, we just stop believing that this is even possible. So while there is a logical and tactical plan go from point A to point B, emotionally, sometimes we are not able to gather the courage. So obviously a coach like yourself who's really getting to know the client and really getting to know their motivators, you are able to help them overcome that emotional block. But for someone who's listening to this, who hasn't had a chance to work with a coach like yourself yet, and they are trying to figure out ways to go over this emotional block, what are some suggestions you have?
Okay. So what you're talking about is motivation. Okay. So yes, January 1st, show up, Mr. Motivation, please. I want to start on January 1st. Okay. And then you start on January 1st and somewhere around the 18th to maybe the 22nd, motivation stops coming around. And you're like, dude, where's my fairy dust? You're supposed to come sprinkle me every morning. So I want to do the things I'm supposed to do. But that's not how motivation works. See, motivation comes from doing. And I know that sounds a little backwards, but let me explain. Okay. There's basically 2 types of motivation. There's the extrinsic motivation and there's intrinsic. Now, the extrinsic motivation is in the form of accountability. Okay. So whether you have a coach that understands you that or not, they can hold you accountable. So within accountability, there's 2 layers. There's the leader layer and then there's the peer group layer. Okay. So the leader layer is the coach, or it's your boss at work, or maybe you're the CEO and there's someone that has to hold you accountable. So you hire a coach. It's pretty easy, right? The doing is the hiring the coach. I want to hire a coach, hold me accountable. I'm going to do these workouts. I want to lose weight. I want to do these things. Hold me accountable. So the boss, basically leader or coach, can hold you accountable. These are your goals. This is what you say you're going to do. Do it. Okay. And that's easy. It's easy to do. You just hire the coach, pick up the phone, go see him. Now you're a client. I'm going to hold you accountable. Tell me what you want to do. Tell me what we're doing. Go do it. Okay. And I will watch. Okay. That's accountability at leader level. The social peer group thing is at a social level. It's okay. And you might hear the term peer pressure and immediately think that's a negative thing, but it's only a negative thing if you have negative peers. If you've got good peers, if you're following through with Jim Rohn, surround yourself with the 5 people you're the sum of. Think about it. You're the sum of those people. Find 5 really good people to hold you accountable. So this will usually take the form in fitness. It'll be like a spin class, or you get a workout buddy, things like that, a run club, water aerobics thing, just anything like that, where you've got people around you that are doing like-minded things. And so they're going to hold you accountable at that level, social level. So you want to show up. If I don't show up for my 6 o'clock CrossFit class, everybody's going to wonder where I am. I'm going to get a bunch of text messages. Hey, dude, you okay? I heard COVID's coming on. You're not sick, are you? No, dude, I just hit the buzz, went back to sleep. So it's going to hold you accountable. You don't want to do that. So accountability is the easy way to get it. But it's extrinsic. So it's not permanent. It's there. But so getting started, that's where you should start. You should start by trying to build accountability behind what you're trying to do. Okay. So after that, then the next stage is over in the intrinsic. And this is where we're talking about self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is really powerful. Okay. So at the leader level for self-efficacy, this is when you are the CEO of your body and your health. So you're making decisions. Now, as a CEO of a company, as a leader of a company, if something breaks or doesn't work the way it's supposed to, we want to put a process in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Okay. So as this leader of your body, you now have to start talking about the strategies and tactics that you would do to keep things from breaking. So case in point, I'll give you an example. I was packing my bag. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go work out at 2:00. I lived about an hour away from the office, so I didn't have time to drive home and do anything. So I carried all my workout gear with me. And some days I'd get out there, I'd pull out the bag, I'd be missing a shirt, I'd be missing shorts, socks, something. One day I was missing one shoe. And I'm like, okay, that's a problem. Okay, because that shouldn't happen. There's no way that should happen. I knew I was probably, for some unknown reason, self-sabotaging, because not having a shoe was a reason to not exercise. Not having shorts was a reason to not exercise. And it was happening enough. They said, this is a problem. I need a solution. So what I did was I laminated the list. I made a list of everything that should be in that bag. I laminated it. And each night when I brushed my teeth before work day, I would go put that laminated list on the bed, have the bag there, make sure every single thing from top to bottom was in there while I'm brushing my teeth. Take the bag, put the list back in the bag, and take it to the door and drop it right by the door that I would be going out that morning. So I would have to literally step over it to leave. Okay. So that might sound a little kind of silly to have a list and laminate it and do it every night, but I never missed another workout. So what I was doing was I was putting a process in place, a tactic, a strategy to make sure it was easier for me to do the workout than to skip it. So I'm reducing friction from doing the things I want to do. So as the CEO of your business, we do that. We put processes in place. We fix processes. And so that's what you got to be thinking about. How can I make this easier? And how can I make it harder to do the things I don't want to do? So if I have snack foods in the cupboard, I'm more likely to eat those snack foods. But if I clear out the cupboards and they aren't here at 8:00 at night when I decide I want a snack, I'm not going to put my shoes on and walk out, start the car and drive it to wherever to pick up a snack. I'm just not going to have the snack, or I'm going to eat something healthy if that's what I've got in the fridge. I'm actually really hungry. What you'll find is if you're not hungry, you won't snack. So you're not going to eat the healthy snacks either. But you see how self-management then gets you doing things. Now you're doing it consistently. Now you're not missing. Now you're making things happen. So what's happening now down at the social level is you're developing habits and values. Okay. So a way I could reflect that is, okay, you're a bodybuilder. So initially you start lifting weights. And you may have hired a coach to start getting you started and understanding what you're doing to build mass, and you start building some mass. And then maybe you go ahead and you see yourself and you're like, okay, now I'm here, I'm hanging out with other bodybuilders. We're lifting together and that's all cool. And I'm making sure that I'm getting what I need to make sure that I'm in the gym when I'm supposed to be there. And then one day you decided you were a bodybuilder. And once you did that, you identify as a bodybuilder. What happens each day when a bodybuilder wakes up in the morning, if it's their gym time, they go lift weights. It's just, you don't even think about it anymore. It's just this, it's time. Like you wake up, you have a cup of coffee, you brush your teeth. We don't think about those things. It's just what we do. And so this is the same way. Like a runner, someone starts walking, jogging, does a little 5K. They start buying the stuff, the water bottles and the shorts and the shirts and the glow stuff so they won't get hit by a car. And then now they just think they're a runner. So in the morning they wake up, they go for a run. They don't even think about anything else. They just do it. And so that's when you identify as the individual that you need to be. And so the best and hardest to get to, but when you get there, it's solid. When at a self-efficacy level, when you identify as the person you're supposed to be, then you are. So there's constant flow of motivation. You just don't even think about it anymore. Now, you might decide, I want to try for this particular competition, and I'm going to need to add an extra 15 pounds of mass before the event in, December. Okay, that's going to be tough, but you say, okay, what do I got to do? I'm going to hire a coach to keep me accountable for the lifting. I may hire a nutritionist to keep me accountable for the nutrition. I'm obviously going to tell my friends I signed up for this competition. So when we're lifting, they're going to know why I'm so insane, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then, what do I have to do to make sure I have free time to do my 2-a-day lifts now and get my meals together? So there's meal prep I need to do on Sunday. I need to do my grocery shopping on Saturday, so I have all the things I need to have all the nutrition. I may have to buy my supplements and have them set on a subscription. You do those things to make sure you have everything you have. That's the management, self-management. And then boom, I identify as the guy who's going to win this competition.
No, it is so much truth and value in what you just said. And I wish I would have found you years ago when I was struggling with this thing, because I had to find out about this the hard way. I've lived two lives, one as a fat guy and one now as a bodybuilder. And you're correct that there was a time my identity was the fun guy who eats a lot and drinks a lot. And that was my identity. Mark showed up, oh my God, we're going to have a great time or what? Because he's always going to come with food or drinks. Or it's a Wednesday evening. I wonder if anybody wants to go out for a drink. Mark is always up. And that was my identity. And through the process that you so wonderfully laid out here, once my identity changed, it became just that. Now I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is go to the gym, because that's just who I am. Even when I'm on vacation in Las Vegas, visiting friends that I haven't seen for a very long time, is the same still old thing. Where's the nearest gym? Go to the gym and work out.
Yes. Self-management. Where's the nearest gym? Okay. Next thing is, okay, what restaurants are in the area I'm going to be staying so I can make sure that I'm getting the nutrition I need, the right nutrition, and I'm not eating crap or drinking crap. I'm there. I'll see my friends. I'll enjoy I may have a beer or I may not, but I'm still going to do my workout. So I just need to know where's a good gym, where's the closest, best gym, and making sure you stay close enough and you're there so that it just happens to reduce the friction and you're in the gym, even when you're in another city.
And the other thing that you also laid out beautifully, when I was struggling, which for anybody who's listening to this and wanting to get your help, the biggest thing I thought that I needed to do was train. And it was a lot of focus on training. But what you laid out about management, there is so much truth to it. Because the management of the pantry, management of the fridge, management of your schedule, management of social outings, there is so much value in that without that, training is pointless, right?
You definitely can't out-train a bad diet. So if you're out, you're that guy, Mark, you're the eater, you're the drinker, you're the guy, there was no amount of training that was going to make that go away. So at some point, you probably made the decision, okay, if I'm going to do this lifting thing, then I can't do the drinking thing, or at least not as much of it. I can't do the eating thing because I'm not going to get as lean as I want to get and see the muscle that I know I'm building. And then so at some point, you're making those other decisions of, okay, wait, put more friction here. Okay, maybe distance myself from some people because, they're not actually serving me. They know I'm trying to do this thing, but they're the bad peers. So I got to get rid of those guys. Sorry, guys, but I'm not going to be drinking like that anymore. So if that's a problem, but if you want to come to the gym, I can use a workout partner. And most of them will say, sorry, Mark, that's not how you serve me. Okay. But that's their life. That's not your decision. So the whole point being is you can build a platform for the motivation that you need and just start with the easy stuff. Hire a trainer. Get the right people around you so they're holding you accountable, because that accountability is strong enough to get you moving. And then you make it easier and easier through self-management. And then at some point, your habits are there, your values are there, and you wouldn't even think about going back to the way things were, because that's not who you are.
No, because the identity has changed, like you said. By the way, I never thought of it until you said it out loud. You said, peer pressure is not a bad thing at all. It only matters who the peer is. I've never thought about it that way. When you said that, I said, you're 100% correct. Peer pressure isn't bad. It's just peers are bad. It's really nice. It's going to stick with me. I want to give you credit for every time I say that. You brought up a really good point a little bit ago about self-sabotage. You have done it. I have done it. Everybody has done it. And I still continue to do it. I don't know why I do it. And there are a lot of listeners who are facing the same problem. Now, like yourself, I've also come up with processes that don't allow me to self-sabotage myself anymore. But when you're working with a client, what are some things you're looking for to really identify if this person is self-sabotaging or not? And if they do, how do you go about explaining to them, hey, you're self-sabotaging yourself, because they may not be willing to accept that?
Yeah, what I usually notice is they change. Then they'll want to stop doing something that's working. That fundamentally, to an outsider, someone who's objective, makes no sense whatsoever. So I may have a client that really struggles with snacking and their food choices. And so I say, look, I don't want you to open up an account on MyFitnessPal and start trying to do accounting with your food. What I want you to do is just take a picture of everything you eat and everything you drink. Okay. Stop yourself long enough just to take a picture of it and send that picture to me, and I'll hold you accountable. What we're doing there is a behavioral trick, because between stimulus and response, there's a space. It's a very small space, but there's a space. And if you can push something in there, you break the chain. if they go to the cabinet and they grab some cookies and they set the cookies down on a napkin and then they take their phone, take a picture of it, they're making a grown man decision. I'm going to eat the cookies, okay, which is fine. Or I'm going to have the beer, which is fine. Okay. Nothing fundamentally wrong with making that decision. But what's going to happen is they eat those two cookies and then now they're going to go back to the cabinet for more cookies. And if they pick that camera up, might make a different decision. So what I find is I've got them doing that as a habit, and they're picking really good food. All the pictures are great, everything's fun. And then all of a sudden they'll say, I don't think I need to do this anymore. Oh, okay. Why would you stop doing something that's working? Okay. This was creating friction about the foods that you don't want to eat. You were forcing yourself to make a grown-ass man decision that what you were going to eat and what you're not going to eat. And now you want to remove that from the process. Why? Because usually what's happening is they want to self-sabotage at some level. They want, and they don't want anyone to know.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's a bit of shame about it. And that's what I was saying. I don't want to shame. I never shame a client. If they say, because I've got one, she's wanting to lose weight, but every day, there's a picture of a glass of wine or a beer. So at some point I'll say, is that serving you for your weight loss goals? And now that you're going to take a picture of it, are you going to think about that differently? So it is an opportunity for them to even have a conversation with themselves, because normal people who overeat, what's happening is that they don't even know they're eating. They go to the cabinet, they grab a snack, they never remember eating it. So if they're trying to log into MyFitnessPal next morning, they might not even remember. Did I have one cookie or 6? Did I have 2 beers or 7? They might not know the answer to that question. And they'll say, oh, let's round it off. It's 3. And so you get the idea that if I slowed them down, they're doing something that's working. I know that they're probably going down something's going on that's more when they want to stop doing something that's working. So if you notice a change like that, or like me, I know it, 1 shoe, dude, that's not even possible.
Yeah.
You did something here. You did something and you don't even know why you did it. The core of it is this. It's a process I call slip to success. Okay. It's a 3-stage process. Now, the first stage is forgiveness, because again, there's a ton of shame around all of this. And shame's not going to serve us. That voice in our head, idiot, you always do this, or that. We would never talk to our friends that way, but for some reason it's okay to talk to ourselves that way. And so we've got to quiet that down. And the way we quiet down is just forgive ourselves. Look, I'm a human being and I made a mistake. I ordered the second and the third and the fourth and the 5th beer. I did it. Okay. So I forgive myself. Okay, that happened. I can't undo it, but I can learn from it. So after you've really forgiven yourself, you just shut that voice off. You say what you want to say. I don't care. I already forgave myself. And now I'm moving forward. And then the next stage is for you to analyze what happened and or what you can do about it. I don't know why there was only 1 shoe. That's what it was. So I had to come up with a solution to make sure that didn't happen again. And then the third is to go. So if it's you had the beers, it's okay. So what happened to the plan? You said you were going to have 1 beer, 1 water, 1 beer, and you didn't. So how do we fix that? Maybe it's when you get to the bar, you order the water first. So I can't have the beer until I drink the water. Okay. And then I'm having the first beer later in the night. Then I have to order a water. And then maybe I can order the second beer if I want it. Okay. That could be a strategy. I say, okay, that's what I'm going to try next time. They come out and say, you want something to drink? Water. Thank you. And then they come back again and you finish the water. I'll take a beer. And then, but make it a good one. Okay, guys, this is the other thing. This is another thing. If you're going to do something silly, do it good. Do it well. Okay. So don't drink the crappy beers. Don't drink crap wine. If you're going to have a cookie, not Chips Ahoy, please, for the love of God, make it a good cookie. Okay. If you're going to do this stuff, it is a treat. It should be pleasant. Make it that way. Slip up and do it with stupid stuff. Just say, okay, I want to have this locally crafted IPA. I hear it's really good. And so I'm travel. That's one of the things I like to do is I'll bop into a brew pub and I'll try their IPA. But it's a good beer and I have the beer and I'm like, okay, that was a good beer. I'll take a water, please. Yeah. And so it's just that thing. I think we put shame on things that don't deserve shame. We don't deserve shame. Yeah. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. So if we do, like, okay, forgive yourself. What can we do differently next time? And then implement it. Go, do it. And you'll find that when you get these things going, they eliminate the slips. So you basically are learning from your own failures, which anybody in business will tell you that's the fastest, easiest way to grow a business is to fail forward, if you will. So you want to fail. And then when you fail, you say, okay, that didn't work. I'll try this. Edison was the report that he had 10,000 failures before he figured out the light bulb. Okay. If he never forgave himself for the first fail, there never would have been the 9,000th fail, or then the 9,999th fail, and then success. Recognize you're human, forgive yourself, and then take the learnings that you can and move forward.
I think what your superpower is that you are not just an average fitness coach, because you have so many disciplines that you have been in. You've been in the military, you have ranger training, you've been in executive roles, and then you have gone through an experience yourself of pain and suffering where you found yourself to not be at a place where you wanted to be. So when you are coming into fitness and when you are coaching people and when you're learning things and you're explaining things, it is really refreshing because you're combining all the knowledge from all those disciplines. And that's what makes you really unique.
What I came to realize was my problem was never what to eat or what to do or any of it. I knew, okay, I need to not eat this and eat that and eat more of this and less of that, and then move and do these things. I pretty much practically knew everything I needed to do. I just wasn't doing it. And so you hear that all the time. I know what to do. I just don't do it. Okay. I even had a client. Here she was. So she hires me. And again, what she needed was accountability. That's all she really needed. So I sat there and we were talking on board. I said, so tell me about a time when you were eating and it worked for you. Like you were losing weight. And so we did that. She said, I ate this way. And I said, okay, let's just try that for now. Okay. So that was her eating plan. I said, tell me about a time when you were building fitness and how that worked. And she said, yeah, this is the program thing I was doing. And I'm like, okay, we'll just do that. And so we started her out. And at the time it was just a 6-week program. And so she goes for 3, and we're having our mid-program call, and she's lost 9 pounds. And here's a woman in her 50s has lost 9 pounds in 3 weeks. I was coming on the call thinking, this is going to be so much fun. We're going to have so much fun today. We get on the call and she says, is that it? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she says, all you're doing is have me do things that I knew worked already. And I'm like, yeah, but you weren't doing them. And she said, but I'm not learning anything. I'm like, you're learning if you do the things you know how to do and you do them consistently, you're going to get great results. I thought I was going to get more workouts. I thought I was going to get this. And I said, okay. And so while she was ranting, I refunded her money. I bounced into my Stripe account and just issued a refund. And then I just told her, I said, okay, I just refunded your money. And she said, what do you mean? I said, if I'm not coaching you the way you want me to coach you, then obviously it's not the results you want. It's something else. And I don't do that. No, I'm not going to give you a workout every day. And no, I'm not going to monitor your food every day. If you don't need that, you didn't need that. You got great results. You needed accountability. And that's what I gave you. And it worked. And now you won't recognize that as valuable. So no, I'm not your coach anymore. I gave you.
What happened to her? Did she come back? Did she reach out to you?
No, I wouldn't have taken her back, to be honest, because again, she wasn't looking for what she needed. And I think she needed that wake up call. It's okay. You know what to do. Just go do it. And if what I did wasn't valuable to her, what was going to change? Because I'm not going to start giving her workouts every day if what she's doing is working. I'm not going to change her nutrition if it's working. Yeah. There was something else going on. And I'm like, I'm not going to play the game. If you're getting results and you don't like getting results the way you're getting results, well, I don't even know what to tell you. So no, I went ahead and fired a client, and I will, because part of this whole thing is if most people, they'll even tell me, I know what to do. I'm just not doing it. Okay. Accountability. That's what you need. Once you have accountability, you're doing the things work and they start working, then eventually you build that self-efficacy and you can move forward. Yeah. But we got to have that process where you're doing it under accountability before most people will get to the self-efficacy. It's rare when someone can go straight to self-efficacy. Okay. And so that's why even I was putting in some accountability. I was looking at my daughter and I said, let's do this. So as soon as I bought the tickets and I did the thing, there was a level of accountability. I wasn't going to show up in Tampa and then not be able to do that race. Yeah. Okay. And so as you look at your journey, realize that this is 99% mindset and motivation stuff. And if you can get in your head and get that right, then you're aimed at the right goal. You're aimed in the right direction. So many times our head is somewhere else, even though we think we want to be over there. We're not looking over there. We're looking somewhere else. Oh, we close our eyes entirely and wonder why we're not getting results.
And I think what you just said is so true in all areas of life. We all intrinsically know what we need to do. We just don't do it. If you're stuck in a bad job, you know what you need to do. Stuck in a bad relationship, you know what you need to do. If you're stuck in a bad health situation, you know what you need to do. But we don't end up doing it, number one, because of lack of accountability. And then all the other things that you mentioned, mindset, psychology, self-sabotage. Am I good enough? Am I going to do this? Like all these things. That's where a world-class coach like yourself comes into play. But almost always everybody's going through life looking for the new tip, trick, tactic, hack that I'm going to hire a coach and she's going to give me some magic wand. And that's just going to make things happen in ways that is never done before. Even when you look at world-class players like Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, they have coaches. What is it? Serena Williams coach showing her to hit the ball in a new way that she didn't know before?
When she was little, yeah, but we're finding it. So here's the cool thing about like when you start actually looking at disciplines like that is that you start seeing where the magic actually comes from. And it's not some fantastical thing. It's that Michael Jordan, from the time he was in high school to probably even today, probably goes out and shoots more free throws in that day than most people would shoot in their lifetime. And everybody's, why would Michael Jordan, at the time, arguably the best basketball player that ever lived, why would he keep practicing free throws? Doesn't he know how to do that? But it's the fundamentals.
Yep.
And if you ever let go of the fundamentals, you're not going to be great. And so it's not some fancy shot or trick. Some of them did have their thing. I think it was one of them. They would do the little hook shot back in the 70s and the early 80s. It was kind of the interesting thing. If they just go around the side behind them. Larry Bird was really good at it. I think Magic Johnson, a couple of them that would finesse the ball. There's this hook shot. Okay, that was fun. Then there was the alley-oop, which was fun, but it didn't win anybody championships.
Yeah.
Free throws, 3-point shots, they won championships. And so the people who practiced those every day ended up being the ones that won championships. They didn't look cute. They just made the shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Allan, you are providing service, providing help, especially a segment of population that is a little bit older, that has joint problems, hip problems, physical pain, lower metabolism, lower testosterone, and you're still getting incredible results. What is the secret sauce? Is there a specific diet that you're prescribing? Is there a combination of what you said, accountability and truly caring for a client, along with an exercise and nutrition routine? What is setting you apart and your clients to be so much more successful than anybody else's that I've ever seen?
We get back to what we're supposed to be doing as human animals, okay? If you think about it, there are no Twinkie trees. We can't go foraging for donuts. There's no Big Mac that we're going to go hunt for. We used to hunt and forage and do those things. So we would travel distance on our feet during the day. So walking, sometimes maybe running, sprinting some, but we're hunting. And then we're foraging. So we're on the ground, we're moving around. Okay. We're not sitting down all day at a desk. And so if you can get a movement pattern that was more natural to how we were designed, you'll feel better. So just doing movements that get you stronger, build some stamina, help you work through the full range of motion that your body's supposed to work. There's a joke that people say, I'm not getting on the floor until I have a plan to get back up. But the reality is you should probably be on the floor every day. Moving, stretching, sitting, just moving, doing the things. And then from nutrition, it's funny because I've interviewed hundreds of people on my podcast to talk about, and a lot of them high up to talk about food. So vegans, carnivores, paleo, keto, everything in between. I even interviewed a vegan keto person. Okay. And she had recipes. It's the board. Now, in their book, if they didn't say it specifically in their book, sometimes I would even ask them on the podcast. But the question is, what makes this way of eating the best way of eating? Okay, because they could say all the stats. Mediterranean diet has the best studies, but we used to not eat this or we always ate that kind of thing. So all of them, they all come to one thing. They say, we're eating whole food and they're eating junk. So whether it's we're eating plant-based whole food or we eating animal-based whole food or we're eating, it all comes to this is not processed crap. Okay, so if it comes in a box, bag, jar, or can, it's suspect. That was not available. We couldn't just find a box of food when we're out in the wilderness. Okay, we know what that plant is and we know we can eat the leaves, that we know that plant, we know we can dig up the roots. Okay, this plant will have berries in the spring and that we can eat. We're not poisonous. We would know those things. We'd go out for hunts. I'd say, okay, look, we're getting tired of this fish. We're fine. We're catching fish. There's not much else to eat because it's winter. Let's just go kill a bear. Okay. 3 or 4 of us like, okay, we'll go kill a bear. And then now we got bear meat for a few days. And so we used to just eat that, but depending on the region that your people are from, but that's what it was. And then somewhere 10,000 years ago, agriculture started. They started making flour and making it into bread and beer. They started making wine. They started processing things. Starting about 100 years ago, it's almost 200 now. They started making cereal. So Kellogg's company was basically a sanitarium. They started making cereal to feed the people that were there in a sanitarium. And one of the guys that was in the sanitarium is by the name of Post. He went and formed his own cereal brand and started selling against them, competing against them after being there. The two Kellogg's brothers that made the first cereal, I think it was cornflakes, had an argument about how much sugar to put in it. So one of them said, the more sugar we put in it, the more they eat. So we want to put in some more sugar so we can sell more. The other brother said, we don't need the sugar. That's not good for them. And they had a falling out, and the pro sugar brother ended up winning. And here we are today. 1 billion people on this planet are obese. They're not just over 40. This is kids. This is across all ages, across almost every demographic. 1 billion people on this planet are obese because we stopped eating real food. We stopped moving the way we were supposed to. We stopped sleeping as much as we should. We have artificial light, so why sleep? I stay up all day, all night. And so we're not sleeping. And with the high pace of everything that's going on in the world, we're letting stress just destroy us. And we're saying, no, I'll accept the stress for the paycheck. And I know that's hard to say, I don't do it. And you said it yourself. I had a terrible boss when I was in Austin. When I lived in Austin, Texas, I had a terrible boss. And my boss's boss hated me. She hated me. Okay. I had been in internal audit and I had audited her group at one time. And apparently her boss got really mad at those results. So here we were years later, not in the same situation, but now she was my boss's boss. She hated me. And so he just let her railroad me. And so my career with that company was effectively gone. I wasn't going to get promoted. I wasn't going to go anywhere. I was going to have either that. If I was going to stay in the company, that was the job I was going to have for the rest of my life. She had pretty much made sure of that. And there wouldn't be any raises. So I did the hard thing. I went to California in Silicon Valley, took my next job there at the same salary I was making in Austin, Texas. That's a whole level of suck I don't even want to talk about. But I had to do that because that pivot put me in the perfect place to be where I needed to be. So sometimes people say, do what you love. If you're going to work out, just what kind of exercise do you love? And I'm like, no, that's not necessarily the best advice. What's going to do the best for your body? What's going to give you what you need? And so as I look at things, like my grandfather, he had to stop playing golf when he was 80. He loved golf. A lot of people would say he was 80, right? He lived until he was 95. So the last 15 years of his life, he didn't get to do the thing he loved the most. Now, when he was 90, he was in this assisted care place, but he couldn't make it from the chair to the bathroom. So he had to call to clean him up because he couldn't even do that himself. He lived the last 5 years that way, and he wouldn't let anybody come visit him. So I didn't get to see him the last 5 years of his life. So I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105. So sometimes I'm doing some things in the gym that I don't like doing, but it's so I'll be able to do that. So I call that fit for task. And it's just a way of looking at this and saying, okay, if I have something like if I have a sport, then I know I'm training for the sport, right? People just intrinsically know that. But when you start talking about yourself and your health, I hate exercise. I hate working out. I hate doing those things. And I'm like, what do you like doing? Like, I ride my bicycle. So just ride your bicycle. That's not going to build muscle. It's not going to build strength. And you're not going to be able to wipe your butt when you're 105. You can ride a bicycle when you're 105, but you're not going to do those other things, which I think are important. Yes. So if you want the longevity with the health, so long lifespan, long health span, then you got to do some things you might not enjoy doing. But when you start to couch them as training, it just changes the way your brain thinks about those things. So as you go through it, the core I'd say is eat real food. The healthier the animal and the plant, the better it is for you. If you're sourcing it locally, farmers markets, co-ops, and know, okay, this was a well cared for animal, then you can trust the meat, you can trust the eggs, you can trust the milk because you know that animal's healthy. Versus industrial food, they're all sick because of the way they're raising them and the way they're feeding them. And so the healthier the animal, the closer everything is to you, the more likely you're getting higher quality food, and that's going to serve you. And there's this weird thing. If the nutrition in your food is good, you'll eat less because your body will get what it needs and it'll tell you it's good. If you're eating crap, your body's going to say the only word it knows when it's looking for nutrition is more. Let's say you had a donut at 8 o'clock. You find yourself at 10 o'clock starving because what happened is one was the sugar change, but the other was when it was sweet, your body was looking for vitamins and minerals. That was like fruit. Where are the vitamins or minerals? So at 10 o'clock, it didn't get enough. We want more. Now, it doesn't mean more donuts, which is what most of us interpret it as. Oh, are there any donuts left in that room? And they go back and get a donut, another one, your third one maybe. And so you don't need it. That's not what you need. What you need is some nutrition, piece of fruit, something like that. So we can make it really easy. And that's what I usually do with my clients is just say, okay, I want to see more real food. And then, of course, if I have them taking pictures, then I see if it's real food. It was funny because I had one client and she hired me and said, when do we start? And I said, right now. And she says, can we start tomorrow? And I said, why? And she says, I don't really want to take a picture of my dinner. I'm like, just take a picture of your dinner. You're a grown-ass woman. It was Taco Bell. Of all things, Taco Bell. So she sent me a picture of her Taco Bell. And I said, okay, was it good? And she said, yeah. I said, probably not going to be eating much of that for the next several months if you want what you told me you want. Okay. Yeah. So again, if you're committed to it, this gets easier. It's like another aspect of commitment I want you could think about is, okay, if you committed to your wife, okay, you're committed to a religion, okay, that was a very deep and emotional thing that you do. You don't cheat on that one, but they'll sit there and say it's cheat day on their diet. I'm like, what is that? You get one of those with your spouse? I don't have that kind of relationship. But it's just like the mindset of, okay, what am I cheating on? And yeah, I'm doing is doesn't serve what I'm trying to accomplish. But is that justified? Is there a reason to do this? If I take a vacation with my wife, I'm not going to be as stringent on my rules as I am when I'm home. I just understand that's what I'm going to do. This detour that's exactly what it is, a detour. But I have a plan to get back on when that detour is over. And as you approach this, you got to use your head. You got to be head first in all of this. But once you get the mindset and commitment and all that in place, then it's just the hunting and pecking, finding the ways that you can make it easier and easier, reducing friction from the things you want to do and adding friction to the things that you don't. So if you want to lift weights, find a gym that's either close to your office or close to your home. Don't look at a gym that's 20 minutes away because you're not going to go as consistently as you would once right in your own neighborhood. It might not be as good a gym, but it's good enough and it's right there. So you're more likely to do the work. If there's foods you don't want to eat, don't have them in your house. And if you can't have to have them in the house because the kids eat it and the wife wants it or whatever, could you at least put it in the other cupboard? My space for my cupboard will be here. And those will be the snacks and things that I'll want. And your stuff is over there. And I won't go in there. There's like a woman's purse. I ain't going in there. Okay. And so you just know, okay, now I've set this space. And so it makes it easier for me, less friction for me to eat what I want to eat, more friction to eat what I don't.
Allan, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Your knowledge, your experience, your way of teaching is so incredible and so unique. You break down complicated concepts into simple, actionable steps. And they say the proof is in the pudding. Your clients are getting incredible results and you are able to work with them one-on-one, customize things for them and their lifestyle and their personality. I wish you the best of luck. And I am so incredibly honored that you appeared on our show. I can't wait to talk to you again later.
Yeah. Good to see you, Mark. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.